Liam Bennett never imagined his perfect, calculated world would be shaken by a single choice. Bringing Sofia Alvarez, a maid from the edges of his high-powered life, into his scheme to outshine his ex-fiancée was supposed to be simple. Instead, it turned into chaos. "You're in over your head, Bennett," Nathan Steele's voice snarled over the phone. "Dragging her into this? Big mistake." Liam's gaze hardened, his jaw tightening. "Try me, Steele. You'll regret it." Sofia stood frozen nearby, her heart racing. She had been thrust into a world of power games she didn't understand, and now she was the target. "Liam," she whispered, her voice breaking. "What have you done?" He turned to her, regret flickering in his steely blue eyes. "I'll fix this. You're not going to get hurt." But could she trust him? As the stakes spiraled higher, Sofia realized this wasn't just Liam's fight anymore. It was hers too, and the danger was far from over. The clock ticked quietly in the corner of the vast penthouse office, a stark contrast to the thunderous turmoil in Liam Bennett's mind. He leaned back in his leather chair, the sharp angles of his jawline clenched as he stared at the glossy card in his hands. The wedding invitation. The name Victoria Marshall glared back at him like an old wound ripped open. Victoria, the woman who once promised to build a future with him, now marrying someone else. A banker of all people, a man who could offer her stability but not the thrill she once craved. The irony burned. Liam exhaled sharply, tossing the invitation onto his desk. "Stable?" he muttered bitterly, standing to pace across the room. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed the glittering Manhattan skyline, a reminder of his success. Yet tonight, all the power and luxury in the world felt hollow. He grabbed his phone, dialing his assistant. "Kate!" he barked when she picked up. "Clear my schedule for the weekend." Kate hesitated. "Is everything all right, Mr. Bennett?" "Just do it," Liam snapped, then ended the call before she could press further. He needed a plan. He wasn't about to let Victoria see him as defeated or worse, lonely. She needed to see that Liam Bennett was thriving, not just surviving, thriving. A knock interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he said sharply, expecting Kate. Instead, Sofia Alvarez, his maid, stepped in hesitantly, clutching a folder of invoices. "Mr. Bennett, I was told to deliver these tonight." Her soft, accented voice trailed off when she saw the storm brewing in his eyes. She stood there, unsure, her modest uniform at odds with the luxurious surroundings. "Leave it on the desk," Liam said brusquely, turning back to the window. Then an idea sparked. His gaze shifted to her reflection in the glass. "Wait," he said, his tone softer but commanding. Sofia froze, confused. "Come here." She stepped closer, clutching the folder tighter. "Is something wrong, sir?" Liam studied her for a moment, his eyes narrowing. She was beautiful in an understated way. Her dark hair framed her delicate features, and her natural grace, though subdued, was undeniable. Her simplicity could be transformed into sophistication. She was perfect. "How long have you worked for me?" he asked suddenly. Sofia blinked. 2 years. You're loyal, discreet, professional." He leaned against the desk, crossing his arms. "I need someone to accompany me to an event this weekend." Her brow furrowed. "An event? A wedding?" Liam said coolly, ignoring the tension in her voice. "Victoria Marshall's wedding." Sofia's eyes widened. She'd heard whispers among the staff about Victoria, though no one dared discuss it openly. "I don't understand. Why me?" "Because you're not like them," Liam replied, gesturing vaguely at the invisible crowd of socialites who normally surrounded him. "You're different. Authentic. That's exactly what I need." Sofia shook her head. "Mr. Bennett, I'm your maid, not your date." "It's not a date," Liam corrected sharply. It's a business arrangement. I'll pay you generously, and all you need to do is attend the wedding with me. Look presentable. Be polite. And most importantly, make Victoria believe I've moved on." Sophia's lips parted in shock. "You're asking me to pretend to be someone I'm not." Liam's jaw tightened. "I'm asking you to help me deliver a message. That's all." The silence between them stretched, heavy with unspoken doubts. Finally, Sophia spoke, her voice firm. "This is ridiculous. I don't belong in your world, and I certainly don't want to be dragged into whatever this is." Her defiance surprised him, igniting a spark of admiration. But Liam didn't relent. "You have bills to pay, don't you? Dreams you've put on hold? Let me make it worth your while." Sophia hesitated, his words hitting a nerve. She thought of the overdue rent, the letters from her mother back in Miami asking for help, and the dream of opening her own small cafe someday. Her pride wrestled with practicality, but ultimately practicality won. "All right," she said finally, her voice trembling with reluctance. "But just this once." A faint smile curved Liam's lips. "Good. We'll start tomorrow." The following morning, Sophia regretted her decision almost instantly. A sleek black car arrived at her modest apartment, whisking her to an exclusive boutique in the heart of Manhattan. She felt out of place among the glossy floors, champagne flutes, and racks of designer gowns. "Miss Alvarez," a stern stylist greeted her, her eyes sweeping Sophia from head to toe. "We'll need to work miracles." Sophia's cheeks burned, but she stayed silent as the team began their work. Dresses were draped over her, heels were shoved onto her feet, and her hair was pulled and twisted into elaborate styles. Each passing moment felt more surreal. Hours later, Liam arrived, scrutinizing her like a painting being appraised. "Not bad," he said finally, his tone dismissive. "But we can do better." Sophia bristled. "Maybe you should have hired a mannequin instead." Liam's lips twitched, but he didn't reply. He motioned for the stylist to bring over another gown, a sleek, emerald green dress that accentuated Sophia's figure without being ostentatious. When she stepped out wearing it, the room fell silent. Liam stared, his usual arrogance replaced by something softer, almost surprised. "Perfect," he said, more to himself than to anyone else. Sophia avoided his gaze, her hands clutching the fabric nervously. "I hope this is enough to impress your ex," she said flatly. Liam's smirk returned. "Trust me, it will." That evening, as Sophia returned home, she replayed the events of the day in her mind. Her reflection in the mirror didn't feel like hers anymore. The elegant woman staring back was a stranger. Her phone buzzed with a message from Liam. "Be ready at 6 p.m. sharp tomorrow. The real work begins." Sophia exhaled shakily, the weight of what she'd agreed to settle heavily on her chest. She didn't belong in his world of power plays and pretense. But for now, she had to play her part, and hope she could walk away unscathed. In the quiet of her apartment, she whispered to herself, "What have I gotten into?" The next evening arrived faster than Sophia Alvarez expected. She found herself standing outside the towering Bennett Tower, her hands clutching the strap of her modest bag as she stared up at the gleaming building. It was the kind of place that whispered power and wealth from every inch of its marble floors to its glittering chandeliers. A far cry from the world she came from. The sleek black car that had brought her here disappeared into the city traffic, leaving her alone with her thoughts. Just as she was about to step inside, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "Come up, top floor. Don't keep me waiting." Sophia's fingers hovered over her screen. She wanted to reply with a snarky remark, but stopped herself. Instead, she shoved the phone back into her bag and walked through the grand revolving doors. The cold air conditioning hit her immediately, as did the curious glances from the sharply dressed receptionist. "I'm here for Mr. Bennet," she said, trying to sound confident. The receptionist, a poised woman with glasses perched on the edge of her nose, scanned her briefly before nodding. "Elevator on the right. Penthouse suite." Sophia stepped into the elevator, her reflection bouncing off its mirrored walls. She felt a wave of doubt creeping in again. This wasn't her world. It never would be. But then she thought of her mother, of the bills piling up, and of the promise she'd made to herself to endure this charade just for one night. The elevator doors opened directly into Liam's penthouse, and she stepped out hesitantly. The sheer opulence of the space stunned her. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city lights, and the minimalist decor exuded luxury without trying too hard. It was intimidating, cold, and completely Liam Bennet. "You're late," Liam's voice called out, pulling her attention. He was standing by the bar, pouring himself a drink. Dressed in a sharp black suit that hugged his frame perfectly, Liam looked every bit the powerful mogul he was. He set his glass down and approached her, his gaze sweeping over her with critical precision. "You didn't think to dress the part before coming here?" he said, his tone sharp but not cruel. Sophia crossed her arms defensively. "You said to be here at 6. You didn't say anything about what I should wear." Liam's lips curved into a slight smirk. "Fair point, but that's why I planned ahead." He motioned toward a sleek garment bag hanging on a nearby rack. "Go change." Sophia hesitated. "Here? Now?" "Yes, unless you'd prefer to attend the etiquette training in your current attire." Her cheeks flushed, but she didn't argue. With a resigned sigh, she grabbed the bag and disappeared into the guest bathroom. The dress inside was breathtaking, an off-shoulder navy gown with delicate beadwork that shimmered under the light. She slipped into it, marveling at how it fit her perfectly. Whoever had chosen this dress clearly understood her measurements better than she did. When she stepped back into the living room, Liam's reaction was subtle but telling. His eyes flicked over her, lingering a second too long before he masked his expression. "That'll do," he said simply, though his tone betrayed a hint of approval. "Now, let's get started." "Started with what exactly?" Sophia asked, folding her arms. "Your transformation," Liam replied, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "If you're going to pull this off, you need to look, act, and sound the part." Before Sophia could respond, the penthouse door opened, and a woman walked in with an air of authority. She was tall, elegant, and carried herself like someone who had seen the inside of every exclusive event in Manhattan. "This is Eleanor," Liam introduced. "She'll teach you everything you need to know about etiquette." Sophia blinked. "Etiquette?" "Yes. How to walk, how to talk, how to hold a champagne glass without looking like you're about to drop it." He smirked. "The basics." Eleanor stepped forward, her sharp eyes assessing Sophia. "We have a lot of work to do," she said curtly. "Let's begin." For the next 2 hours, Sophia was subjected to a crash course in high society behavior. Eleanor corrected her posture, adjusted her gait, and even lectured her on the proper way to laugh at a joke that wasn't funny. Liam watched from a distance, his expression unreadable. At one point, Eleanor placed a champagne glass in Sophia's hand. "Hold it like this," gently, but with confidence. Sophia tried, but the glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. She winced as Eleanor sighed dramatically. "Again," Eleanor said, her patience thinning. Sophia clenched her fists. "I don't need to learn how to hold a glass," she snapped. "This is ridiculous." Liam finally stepped in, his voice calm but firm. "Sophia, you agreed to this. You can either take it seriously or back out now." His words stung, but they also reignited her determination. She picked up another glass and held it steady, her hands trembling slightly. "That's better," Eleanor said reluctantly, "but you'll need much more practice." By the time the session ended, Sophia was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. As Eleanor packed up her materials, Liam walked over to her. "You did well for your first day," he said. Sophia shot him a glare. "If that was well, I'd hate to see what failure looks like." Liam chuckled, a rare sound that softened the edges of his normally cold demeanor. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's the real test." "What's happening tomorrow?" she asked warily. "You'll meet someone who can truly judge whether you're ready for this," Liam replied cryptically. Before she could press him further, he added, "I'll send a car for you at noon. Don't be late." Sophia left the penthouse feeling drained and frustrated. Yet, beneath her irritation, there was a flicker of something else, a desire to prove Liam wrong, to show him that she could rise to the challenge, even if it was for reasons she didn't fully understand herself. As she stepped into the elevator, she glanced at her reflection in the mirrored walls. The woman staring back was changing, bit by bit. Whether for better or worse, she wasn't sure, but one thing was certain: she wouldn't let Liam Bennett, or anyone else, define her worth, not without a fight. The doors closed, and Sophia exhaled, bracing herself for whatever came next. The following afternoon, Sophia stepped out of her apartment to find the sleek black car already waiting. Its tinted windows and polished exterior gleamed under the midday sun. Her nerves were tighter than ever, but she wasn't about to let them show. Clutching her small purse, she climbed inside and found the driver as stoic as usual, offering her only a polite nod before pulling into the chaotic Manhattan traffic. Sophia stared out the window, her thoughts swirling. Liam's cryptic remark about meeting someone who would truly judge her readiness had haunted her all night. Who was she about to meet? Another etiquette coach? A socialite? Or worse, Victoria herself? Her stomach churned at the thought. The car came to a smooth stop outside a grand townhouse in the Upper East Side, its stately facade adorned with wrought-iron balconies and cascading ivy. This wasn't just wealth, it was old money, generational wealth, the kind that whispered instead of shouted. Before she could ask the driver anything, the door was opened for her, and Liam stood waiting at the foot of the townhouse steps. He was impeccably dressed, as always, in a tailored charcoal suit and crisp white shirt. His expression was unreadable, but his sharp blue eyes studied her the way one might appraise a painting. "You're on time," he said, his tone neutral but carrying a hint of approval. "Figured I shouldn't keep your mystery judge waiting," Sophia replied, her voice edged with sarcasm to mask her nerves. Liam's lips twitched in what might have been the beginnings of a smirk, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Follow me." Sophia followed him up the steps and into the townhouse, where a butler greeted them with a slight bow before gesturing toward the sitting room. The space was breathtaking, ornate moldings, antique furniture, and a grand piano tucked into one corner. Yet it wasn't the decor that caught Sophia's attention. It was the woman standing by the window. She was older, but radiated an ageless elegance, her silver hair swept into a neat chignon and her tailored suit accentuating a posture of practiced poise. Her presence dominated the room, even as she turned to face them with a faint smile. "Mother," Liam said, his voice carefully measured. "This is Sophia Alvarez." Sophia's heart stopped. His mother. He hadn't mentioned this. She shot him a sharp glance, but Liam's face betrayed nothing. The woman approached, her gaze assessing Sophia with the precision of a jeweler examining a flawed diamond. "So, you're the one my son thinks can fool Victoria and her crowd," she said, her voice cool but not unkind. "Interesting." Sophia straightened her shoulders, determined not to wilt under the scrutiny. "I'm here because he asked, not because I'm pretending to be someone I'm not." Liam's mother raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise breaking through her composed exterior. "You've got fire," she remarked almost to herself. "Good. You'll need it." "I'll leave you to it," Liam said, stepping back toward the door. "Sophia, listen to her. She knows what she's talking about." Sophia turned to him, panic flashing briefly in her eyes. "You're leaving?" "This is between the two of you," Liam replied smoothly. "I'll be back in an hour." Without waiting for her response, he disappeared, the door clicking shut behind him. Sophia turned back to Mrs. Bennet, who was now seated gracefully on one of the antique sofas. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the chair opposite her. Sophia obeyed, feeling like she was being summoned to the principal's office. Mrs. Bennet's piercing gaze didn't waver as Sophia perched on the edge of her seat. "My son tells me you're a maid," Mrs. Bennet began, her tone matter-of-fact. "I am," Sophia replied evenly, refusing to feel ashamed. "I've worked for him for 2 years. And now he's dragged you into this scheme of his." It wasn't a question, and Sophia didn't bother denying it. Mrs. Bennet leaned back, studying her. "Tell me, do you know why he's doing this?" Sophia hesitated, then shook her head. "He said it's about proving something to Victoria, showing her that he's moved on." Mrs. Bennet laughed softly, a sound tinged with both amusement and bitterness. "Ah, yes. My son and his pride, always trying to prove he's untouchable." Her gaze softened slightly, though her voice remained firm. "But there's more to this than Victoria. Liam doesn't just want to prove something to her, he wants to prove something to himself." Sophia frowned, unsure how to respond. Mrs. Bennet didn't give her the chance. "Let me make one thing clear, Miss Alvarez," she said, leaning forward. "This world my son lives in, it's ruthless. People will smile to your face and stab you in the back the moment you turn around. If you step into that world, you need to be more than just presentable. You need to be untouchable." Sophia swallowed hard. "I didn't ask for any of this." "No," Mrs. Bennet agreed, "but you accepted it. And now you're in it. So let's make sure you're ready." The hour that followed was a whirlwind of instructions, advice, and cutting observations. Mrs. Bennet didn't mince words, pointing out every flaw in Sophia's posture, tone, and expression. Yet, beneath her sharp critiques, there was a sense of purpose. She wasn't just trying to tear Sophia down. She was building her up. By the time Liam returned, Sophia felt like she'd been through a battle. She stood as he entered, her back straighter and her gaze steadier than before. "How did she do?" Liam asked his mother. Mrs. Bennet stood as well, giving Sophia a long, appraising look. "She has potential," she said finally. "Rough edges, but those can be smoothed." Liam's expression remained neutral, but Sophia caught the flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. "Good," he said. "Thank you, Mother." Mrs. Bennet turned to Sophia. "Remember what I said. Be untouchable. And one more thing." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "Don't let my son push you too far. He has a habit of using people and forgetting they're human. Don't let him forget." Sophia nodded, unsure how to respond. With that, Mrs. Bennet swept out of the room, leaving a silence that felt heavier than before. Liam approached Sophia, his gaze searching hers. "Well, she's intense," Sophia said, her voice steadier than she felt. Liam chuckled, the sound warm and unexpected. "You survived. That's more than most can say." Sophia couldn't help but smile, though it faded quickly. "Liam, what exactly are you trying to prove with all of this? To Victoria? To your mother? To yourself?" His smirk faltered, and for a moment something vulnerable flickered in his eyes. But just as quickly, it was gone. "Let's just say this is personal," he said, turning away. "Be ready for tomorrow. It's the wedding day." As the car took her home, Sophia stared out at the city lights, her heart heavy with uncertainty. She wasn't sure what she had gotten herself into, but one thing was clear: this was far more than just a game to Liam Bennett. And whether she liked it or not, she was now a part of it. The wedding day arrived shrouded in an air of tension that Sophia could feel the moment she stepped into the car waiting outside her apartment. She was dressed impeccably in the emerald green gown Liam had chosen for her, her hair swept into an elegant chignon by the stylists he had hired. Everything about her appearance screamed perfection, yet she couldn't shake the knot of unease twisting in her stomach. This wasn't her world, and today she would be stepping directly into the lion's den. As the car rolled toward the historic estate where the wedding was being held, the city slowly faded into sprawling mansions and manicured lawns. Sophia stared out the window, trying to calm her nerves, but the magnitude of what she had agreed to kept rising like a tide she couldn't control. "Breathe!" Liam's voice came from beside her, calm and commanding. She turned her head to meet his gaze. He was dressed in a classic black tuxedo, his sharp features exuding confidence, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes. Nerves, maybe? Or anticipation? Whatever it was, it didn't match the icy mask he usually wore. "I am breathing," Sophia replied, her voice sharper than she intended. "Just not sure why I'm doing this." Liam's lips curved into a faint smirk. "You're doing this because you agreed to, and because I need you." The way he said it, low and serious, made her heart skip a beat. She quickly looked away, focusing on the scenery instead. The car pulled up to the estate, a sprawling Georgian-style mansion framed by lush gardens and grand fountains. Guests dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits strolled up the cobblestone driveway, their laughter carrying over the gentle hum of a live-string quartet. It was an image straight out of a lifestyle magazine, and Sophia felt her breath hitch. "This is insane," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's just a wedding," Liam said, though his jaw tightened slightly as he scanned the crowd. "Remember, you're with me. Walk in like you own the place." The driver opened the door, and Liam stepped out first, extending his hand toward Sophia. She hesitated for half a second before taking it, the warmth of his touch grounding her as she stepped out into the glaring sunlight. Whispers started almost immediately. "Who's that? Is she with him? She's stunning. Where did Liam find her?" Sophia felt the weight of 100 curious eyes, but Liam's grip on her hand was firm, a silent reassurance. He leaned closer as they walked, his voice low in her ear. "Head high, smile. You're untouchable, remember?" She nodded, willing herself to ignore the stares and murmurings. Her heels clicked against the stone path as they made their way to the grand entrance. A uniformed attendant greeted them, directing them toward the main hall, where the ceremony would take place. The interior was even more extravagant than the exterior. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, their light refracting off gilded mirrors and floral arrangements that must have cost more than Sophia's annual rent. Liam guided her through the crowd, his hand now resting lightly on the small of her back. "Liam Bennett," a voice called out, smooth and dripping with amusement. Sophia turned to see a tall man approaching them, his tailored suit and perfectly styled hair marking him as someone important. Liam's grip on her tightened ever so slightly. "Nathan," Liam said coolly, his tone laced with just enough edge to signal that this wasn't a friendly greeting. Nathan's eyes flicked to Sophia, and his smile widened. "And who is this?" he asked, his tone far too interested. "Sophia Alvarez," Liam said firmly before she could respond. "My partner." Partner. The word hung in the air, deliberate and calculated. Nathan raised an eyebrow, his gaze sweeping over Sophia with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "A pleasure," Nathan said, extending a hand toward her. "I'm Nathan Steele, an old friend of Liam's." Sophia shook his hand, her grip firm despite the nervous flutter in her chest. "Nice to meet you." Nathan's eyes lingered on her for a moment too long before he turned back to Liam. "You've outdone yourself this time," he said, his tone dripping with something that wasn't quite a compliment. Liam's expression remained impassive. "I always do." With that, Nathan excused himself, leaving behind an air of smug satisfaction that made Sophia's skin crawl. She turned to Liam, lowering her voice. "Who was that?" "Trouble," Liam replied shortly. "Ignore him." Before she could press for more, a hush fell over the room as the ceremony began. The bride, Victoria, made her grand entrance, her gown shimmering under the soft light. She was undeniably beautiful, her smile radiant as she walked down the aisle. But when her eyes briefly met Liam's, a flicker of something unreadable passed across her face. It was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by the perfect mask of a blushing bride. Sophia glanced at Liam, noting the way his jaw clenched and his gaze hardened. He wasn't as unaffected as he wanted to seem. That much was clear. The ceremony passed in a blur, and soon they were ushered into the reception hall, a lavish space filled with gold accents and towering centerpieces. Liam kept close to Sophia, his presence a shield against the onslaught of curious stares and probing questions. As they moved through the crowd, Victoria appeared before them, her smile as sharp as the diamonds adorning her neck. "Liam," she said, her voice honeyed but with an edge. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I wouldn't miss it," Liam replied smoothly. "And I see you've outdone yourself, as always." Victoria's eyes shifted to Sophia, her smile tightening. "And who's your friend?" "Sofia Alvarez," Sophia said, extending a hand before Liam could speak. "It's lovely to meet you." Victoria's grip was light, her expression carefully neutral. "The pleasure is mine." Liam always did have a knack for surprises. The tension between them was palpable, and Sophia felt like a pawn caught between two skilled players. Victoria's gaze lingered on her for a moment longer before she excused herself, leaving a trail of icy politeness in her wake. "What was that?" Sophia whispered as they moved away. "That," Liam said, his voice low, "was a game. And you just played it perfectly." Sophia wasn't so sure. She felt like she'd just stepped onto a battlefield where every smile hid a dagger. And as the night wore on, she realized just how much of a performance this really was. When the dancing began, Liam led her to the floor, his hand warm against hers as he guided her through the steps. For a moment, it was almost easy to forget where they were, the rest of the room fading away as they moved in sync. But then Liam leaned closer, his voice a near whisper. "Victoria's watching," he said. "Let her see." Sophia's eyes flicked to the edge of the dance floor, where Victoria stood, her expression unreadable. It was a reminder that this wasn't about them. It was about appearances, about proving a point. And as much as Sophia hated it, she couldn't deny the thrill of playing along. By the time the night ended, she was emotionally drained, her facade slipping as they left the estate. In the car, she finally broke the silence. "Liam," she said, her voice tight, "I don't know how much longer I can do this." He turned to her, his expression softer than she expected. "Just a little longer," he said quietly. "I need you." The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard, and for the first time she wondered if there was more to Liam Bennett than the icy facade he showed the world. But before she could dwell on it, the car pulled up to her apartment, and the moment was gone. Sophia stepped out, the weight of the night pressing heavily on her shoulders. As the car disappeared into the night, she looked up at the sky, the city lights blurring as questions swirled in her mind. What was she doing? And more importantly, what was Liam really trying to prove? Sophia woke up the next morning to the sound of her phone vibrating incessantly on the nightstand. Her head still swirled with the events of the wedding, the whispers, Victoria's sharp smiles, and Liam's quiet plea for her to stay by his side. She rubbed her eyes and grabbed the phone, squinting at the name flashing on the screen. Liam Bennett. For a brief moment, she considered ignoring it. But curiosity, and maybe a hint of something she didn't want to name, made her press the green button. "What now?" she asked, her voice still heavy with sleep. "Good morning to you too," Liam replied, his tone smooth but unusually subdued. "We need to talk." Sophia sat up, her heart skipping a beat. "Talk? About what?" "Not over the phone. I'll send a car." "Liam, it's important," he interrupted, his voice firm. "Be ready in an hour." The line went dead before she could protest. Sophia stared at the phone, her frustration warring with the undeniable pull of curiosity. What was so urgent? She wanted to tell him she was done with his games, but the memory of his quiet vulnerability in the car last night stopped her. Against her better judgment, she got up and started getting ready. The car arrived precisely an hour later, and as she slid into the back seat, Sophia couldn't help but wonder if she was making a mistake. The drive to Bennett Tower felt longer than usual, the city rushing past in a blur of steel and glass. When the elevator doors opened to Liam's penthouse, she was greeted by the sight of him pacing by the window, his phone pressed to his ear. "No, I don't care what they said," Liam snapped, his tone sharp and cutting. "Fix it. Now." He ended the call and turned to her, his jaw tight and his expression uncharacteristically tense. For the first time, Liam Bennett looked rattled. "This had better be good," Sophia said, crossing her arms. Liam gestured for her to sit, his usual arrogance replaced by something far more human. "There's been fallout from last night." Sophia frowned. "Fallout? From the wedding?" He nodded, running a hand through his already perfect hair. "Victoria's friends are talking, speculating. Someone saw us dancing and decided to spread rumors that, well, that you're more than just a guest." Sophia's stomach dropped. "More than just a guest? What does that even mean?" "That you're involved with me," Liam said bluntly. "That you're some sort of secret girlfriend." Sophia laughed bitterly, the sound more out of disbelief than humour. "And whose fault is that, Liam? You practically paraded me around like a trophy." "I did what I had to do," he said, his voice rising slightly. "But now it's spiralling out of control. Investors are asking questions. My board is hearing whispers." Sophia stared at him, incredulous. "So let me get this straight. You dragged me into this mess, and now that it's backfiring, you're blaming me?" "I'm not blaming you," Liam said quickly, stepping closer. "But I need you to understand how serious this is. My reputation—" "Your reputation?" Sophia cut him off, standing abruptly. "Do you have any idea what this is doing to mine? I'm just some maid, remember? Or have you already forgotten that you put me in this position?" Liam's expression darkened, but he didn't respond immediately. The silence between them stretched, heavy and charged. Finally he sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly. "You're right," he admitted quietly. "This isn't fair to you." Sophia blinked, caught off guard by his sudden shift in tone. "What?" "This isn't fair to you," he repeated, his voice softer. "I asked you to do this, and now you're caught in the crossfire. I didn't realize how much it would cost you." The sincerity in his voice was disarming, and Sophia found herself struggling to hold on to her anger. "What do you want from me, Liam?" He met her gaze, his blue eyes uncharacteristically vulnerable. "I want to fix this. I'll make sure the rumors stop. I'll protect you." Sophia scoffed, shaking her head. "You can't protect me, Liam. Not from this. The damage is already done." For a moment he looked like he wanted to argue, but then he simply nodded. Maybe not, but I'll try. Sophia sighed, sinking back onto the sofa. Why does it matter so much? What are you really trying to prove with all of this? Liam hesitated, his gaze drifting to the window. It's not just about Victoria, he admitted finally. It's about me. My father built this empire, but no matter how much I've accomplished, people still look at me like I'm just riding his coattails. Victoria, she left because she didn't think I could be more than that. I need to prove them wrong. Sophia watched him, her anger softening slightly. And dragging me into your personal war is supposed to help with that. It wasn't supposed to go this far, Liam said, his voice tight with frustration. I didn't want to face her alone. The admission hung in the air, raw and unguarded. For the first time, Sophia saw the cracks in Liam's armor. Beneath the arrogance and bravado, he was just a man trying to escape the shadow of his past. Liam, she said softly, you don't need to prove anything to anyone, least of all Victoria. He laughed bitterly, turning back to her. It's not that simple. Maybe it is, Sophia replied, standing. But that's for you to figure out, not me. She moved toward the door, her heart pounding with a mix of anger and sympathy. Before she could leave, Liam's voice stopped her. Sophia. She turned, her hand hovering over the door handle. What? Thank you, he said, his tone low but earnest. For everything. Sophia didn't respond. She simply nodded and walked out, leaving him standing alone in the penthouse. As the elevator descended, she pressed her back against the wall and closed her eyes. This wasn't just a game anymore, and no matter how much she tried to distance herself, she was already in too deep. Sophia sat at the small table in her apartment, the silence of the room pressing down on her. In front of her, a half-empty cup of coffee had gone cold, untouched for over an hour. She stared at the pale light streaming through the window, trying to make sense of everything. Liam Bennett and his world had consumed her life in ways she hadn't anticipated. She wanted out, but even as she thought it, something deeper rooted her in place. Something she couldn't name, something she didn't want to face. Her phone buzzed, breaking the quiet. For a moment, she hesitated, debating whether to answer. The caller ID flashed with a name she had grown used to seeing, Liam. Against her better judgment, she picked it up. Sophia, his voice came through, steady, but layered with something she couldn't quite identify. I need to see you. She sighed, leaning back in her chair. Liam, I've done enough. I can't keep getting dragged into your mess. This isn't about the wedding, or Victoria, or anything like that, he said quickly, almost as if he were afraid she'd hang up. It's something else. Something I need your help with. His tone was different, softer, less composed. It wasn't the commanding Liam Bennett she had grown accustomed to. It was enough to intrigue her. What's going on? She asked cautiously. Can we talk in person? He said. Please, just give me 10 minutes. The word please struck her, a rarity coming from him. Against every logical thought screaming at her to walk away, she found herself agreeing. Fine, she said. 10 minutes. The car arrived quickly, and as it pulled up in front of Bennett Tower, Sophia felt her nerves spike. She had told herself she was done with this, but here she was, stepping back into his world yet again. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt endless, the tension building with each passing second. When the doors slid open, she found Liam pacing near the window, his hands buried deep in his pockets. He turned at the sound of her arrival, his expression tense but grateful. Thank you for coming, he said. Sophia crossed her arms, standing firm. What's so urgent? Liam motioned for her to sit, but she stayed where she was. He exhaled heavily, rubbing the back of his neck. There's been a leak. Her stomach dropped. A leak? About what? About you. About us. He hesitated, then added, and about my company. Sophia froze, her heart pounding. What do you mean about us? There is no us. I know that, Liam said quickly, stepping closer, but someone doesn't. A rumor's been circulating that you're more than just my date, that you're some kind of secret mistress. Her jaw clenched. That's absurd. It doesn't matter if it's absurd, Liam said, his voice sharp. What matters is that it's gaining traction, and now my rivals are using it to undermine me. She stared at him, anger flaring in her chest. So this is about your business? About your precious reputation? No, he said, his tone softer now. It's about you. People are dragging your name through the mud because of me, and I can't let that happen. Sophia laughed bitterly, shaking her head. You should have thought about that before you paraded me around like some prize. I didn't know this would happen, Liam said, his frustration evident. But I'm trying to fix it. Fix it? Sophia's voice rose. How do you fix something like this, Liam? My name, my life, none of it matters to these people. They'll chew me up and spit me out without a second thought. He stepped closer, his expression uncharacteristically raw. You matter to me. The words hung in the air, heavy and unexpected. Sophia blinked, taken aback. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the weight of his admission sinking in. She didn't know how to respond, and Liam seemed just as surprised by what he had said. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, he said finally, his voice low. But I'm not going to let you take the fall for my mistakes. Sophia looked away, her emotions a storm she couldn't control. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that his intentions were genuine. But this wasn't just about her and Liam. This was about a world she didn't belong in, a world that had already started to devour her. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice quieter now. I need you to let me protect you, he said. Let me handle this. And how exactly do you plan to do that? Liam hesitated, the flicker of doubt in his eyes betraying his usual confidence. I have a plan, but it's risky. Sophia raised an eyebrow. Risky how? He didn't answer immediately, instead turning back to the window and staring out at the city below. I need to call out the person behind this, publicly. They've been spreading these lies to sabotage both of us, and if I don't address it, it'll only get worse. And what if it backfires? Sophia asked. What if it just gives them more fuel? It might, Liam admitted, his voice tight, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. For you, she said pointedly. Not for me. For both of us, he countered, turning back to her. You're in this now, whether you like it or not. And I'm not going to let them destroy you because of me. Sophia stared at him, searching his face for any sign of deception. But all she saw was sincerity, a sincerity that scared her more than anything else. She didn't know if she could trust him, but for some reason she wanted to. What do you need me to do? She asked reluctantly. Just trust me, he said, and be ready. This isn't going to be easy. Sophia nodded slowly, the weight of his words settling over her like a heavy cloak. She didn't know what she was walking into, but there was no turning back now. Liam had pulled her into his world, and for better or worse, she was going to see it through. As she left the penthouse that evening, her mind raced with questions and doubts. The city lights blurred outside the car window, a reflection of the chaos swirling within her. She had no idea what Liam's plan was, but one thing was certain. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot, and deep down she wasn't sure if she wanted it to be. The morning arrived with an ominous grey sky, thick clouds pressing down on the city, like an unspoken warning. Sophia sat in her tiny kitchen, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea she had yet to sip. Her phone buzzed on the table beside her, a single message lighting up the screen. It was from Liam. "Be ready at noon. I'll send a car." She stared at the message for a moment, her chest tightening with anxiety. This was it, the day he would execute whatever plan he'd been scheming. She didn't know what to expect, and that uncertainty gnawed at her like a persistent itch. With a heavy sigh, she stood and began getting ready, choosing an outfit that struck a careful balance between understated and polished. The car arrived precisely at noon, and Sophia slipped inside, greeted by the now familiar silence of Liam's driver. As the car wove through Manhattan's bustling streets, her mind raced with questions. What would Liam do? Would it work? And more importantly, how much more of this world could she handle? When the car stopped outside Bennett Tower, she stepped out and was immediately met by a rush of cold wind. The building's sleek exterior loomed above her, a stark contrast to the uncertainty swirling in her mind. Inside, the elevator ride to the penthouse felt longer than usual, the quiet hum of the machinery amplifying her nerves. The doors slid open to reveal Liam standing near the grand piano, his phone pressed to his ear. He was dressed in a tailored navy suit, his expression sharp and unreadable as he spoke in low, clipped tones. He ended the call as soon as he saw her, slipping the phone into his pocket and striding toward her. "You're early," he said, his tone carrying a faint note of approval. Sophia shrugged, trying to mask her nervousness. "Figured I should be prepared for whatever insanity you've planned." His lips curved into a faint smirk, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I appreciate the vote of confidence." She crossed her arms, leveling him with a steady gaze. "So, are you going to tell me what this grand plan of yours is?" Liam gestured for her to follow him into the expansive living room, where a laptop sat open on the coffee table. The screen displayed a draft of a press release, bold headlines and paragraphs filled with carefully chosen words. "This," he said, pointing to the screen, "is how we regain control." Sophia frowned, stepping closer to read. The release outlined the allegations against Liam and his company, firmly denying the rumors while calling out the source of the leak, Nathan Steele. The tone was assertive yet professional, painting Liam as the victim of malicious sabotage. "This puts everything on Nathan," she said, glancing at Liam. "Are you sure he's the one behind it?" "I'm positive," Liam said, his voice cold. "He's been trying to undermine me for years, and this is exactly the kind of move he'd make." Sophia bit her lip, her mind racing. "And what about me? How does this address the rumors about us?" Liam hesitated, his gaze flickering with something she couldn't quite place. "It positions you as a key part of the project we've been working on. A professional collaboration, nothing more." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "A collaboration? I'm your maid, Liam, not your business partner." "You're more than that," he said firmly, stepping closer. "You've been part of this from the beginning, whether you realize it or not. And if we frame it right, no one will question it." She shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "You make it sound so easy. Just rewrite the narrative and everything magically falls into place." "It's not easy," Liam said, his voice rising slightly. "But it's necessary. If we don't control the story, someone else will, and believe me, they won't be kind." Sophia stared at him, her chest tightening with a mix of frustration and reluctant understanding. As much as she hated to admit it, he was right. This wasn't just about him anymore. Her name, her reputation, her entire life had been pulled into his orbit, and there was no escaping it now. "Fine," she said finally, her voice tinged with resignation. "What do you need me to do?" Liam's expression softened slightly, the tension in his shoulders easing. "I need you to stand with me. We'll release the statement this afternoon, and once it's out, we'll address the media together." "Together?" she echoed, her stomach twisting. "You mean like a press conference?" He nodded. "It's the only way to put this to rest. They need to see us, hear the truth from us." Sophia swallowed hard, the weight of his words settling over her like a heavy cloak. She wasn't prepared for this, not the cameras, the questions, the scrutiny. But as she looked into Liam's eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen before. Trust. He was trusting her to stand by him, to help him fight this battle. "I'll do it," she said quietly, her voice steadier than she felt. "But you owe me, Liam. Big time." His lips twitched into a faint smile. "I'll remember that." The hours leading up to the press conference passed in a blur of preparation. Sophia was swept into a whirlwind of last-minute coaching, her nerves growing with each passing minute. By the time they arrived at the conference venue, her hands were trembling, though she did her best to hide it. The room was packed with reporters, their cameras flashing as Liam and Sophia stepped onto the stage. He guided her to her seat with a light touch on her back, his presence both grounding and overwhelming. Liam opened the conference with a statement, his voice steady and commanding as he addressed the rumors and accusations. He spoke of integrity, of resilience, and of the importance of truth. When he turned to Sophia, his gaze softened slightly, and for a moment she forgot about the sea of faces watching them. "Sophia Alvarez has been an invaluable part of my team," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "Her contributions to our sustainability project have been nothing short of extraordinary. Any suggestion that our relationship is anything other than professional is both baseless and insulting." Sophia's breath caught, her chest tightening with a mix of relief and disbelief. He wasn't just defending himself. He was defending her, with a sincerity that left her momentarily speechless. When it was her turn to speak, she hesitated, her mind blanking as the cameras zoomed in on her. But then she felt Liam's hand brush against hers under the table, a silent gesture of reassurance. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak, her voice wavering at first, but growing stronger with each word. By the time the conference ended, Sophia felt like she had run a marathon. The tension in her body refused to ease, even as the reporters filed out and the cameras stopped flashing. Liam turned to her, his expression unreadable. "You did well," he said quietly. She nodded, too exhausted to respond. As they left the venue, the weight of everything they had just faced settled over her. This wasn't over, not by a long shot, but for the first time she felt like she wasn't facing it alone, and that, at least, was something. Sophia sat in the back of the car as it weaved through Manhattan's crowded streets, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The adrenaline from the press conference had worn off, leaving her drained and slightly dazed. Outside, the city buzzed with its usual energy, but inside the car the air was heavy with silence. She glanced at Liam, seated beside her, his jaw clenched as he stared out the window. He hadn't said much since they left the venue, his normally sharp demeanor clouded with tension. "What happens now?" Sophia finally asked, her voice breaking the quiet. Liam turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Now we wait. The statement's out, the press conference is over. It's up to them how they spin it." She frowned. "That doesn't exactly sound reassuring." "It's not," he admitted, his tone clipped. "But it's the best we can do." Sophia leaned back against the seat, letting out a heavy sigh. "And what about Nathan? Do you really think this will stop him?" Liam's jaw tightened further. He's not the type to back down easily. But if he tries anything else, I'll be ready." Sophia didn't respond. She wasn't sure what to say. The whole situation felt like a chess game, each move calculated but fraught with uncertainty, and she was just a pawn, caught in the middle of a battle that was far bigger than her. When the car pulled up outside her apartment, Liam finally turned to her, his gaze softer than she expected. "Thank you for everything today." She hesitated, then nodded. "Just don't let this blow back on me any more than it already has." "I won't," he said firmly. "You have my word." Sophia stepped out of the car and watched as it disappeared into the night, leaving her alone with her thoughts. She climbed the stairs to her apartment, her mind spinning with everything that had happened. As she unlocked the door, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Pulling it out, she saw a text from an unknown number. "Careful who you trust. Some games are more dangerous than they seem." Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at the message, her pulse quickening. Who had sent it? And what did they mean? Without thinking, she dialed Liam's number. He picked up on the second ring. "Sophia," he said, his voice sharp with concern. "What's wrong?" She hesitated, clutching the phone tightly. "I just got a text. It's strange." "What does it say?" She read the message aloud, her voice trembling slightly. There was a long pause on the other end of the line before Liam spoke again. "Do you still have the number?" "Yes." "Send it to me," he said, his tone cold and authoritative. "I'll have someone look into it." "Liam, what if—" "Don't worry," he interrupted, his voice softening. "I'll handle it." Sophia hung up, her nerves frayed. She forwarded the number to Liam, then sat on her couch, staring at the message again. It felt like a warning, but from whom? And why? The next day, she received a call from Liam's assistant, Kate, instructing her to meet Liam at his office. When she arrived, the tension in the air was palpable. Liam was seated behind his desk, his expression dark as he scrolled through something on his laptop. "Any news?" Sophia asked, stepping into the room. Liam looked up, his gaze intense. "The number belongs to a burner phone. Whoever sent that message doesn't want to be traced." Sophia's stomach churned. "Do you think it's Nathan?" "It's possible," Liam said, leaning back in his chair. "But it could also be someone working for him. Either way, it's a threat." Sophia sat down across from him, her hands gripping the edge of the chair. "What do we do?" "We stay ahead of them," Liam said, his voice steely. "Nathan thinks he's untouchable, but he's made mistakes. I just need to find them." "And if you don't?" Liam's eyes hardened. "Failure isn't an option." For the next few days, Liam's world consumed hers. She found herself drawn deeper into his battle with Nathan, attending meetings and strategy sessions, her every move monitored by Liam's security team. It was exhausting, but she couldn't deny the strange sense of purpose it gave her. She wasn't just a pawn anymore. She was part of the fight. One evening, as they worked late in his penthouse, Liam surprised her with a rare moment of vulnerability. "Do you ever wonder," he said, his voice quiet, "how things might have been different if you'd never gotten involved with all this?" Sophia looked up from her laptop, startled by the question. "All the time," she admitted. "But I'm here now, and I'm not going to back down." Liam studied her for a moment, something unspoken passing between them. "You're stronger than I gave you credit for." She smiled faintly. "And you're more human than I gave you credit for." The moment lingered, charged with an intensity that neither of them dared to acknowledge. But before it could deepen, Liam's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. "It's Nathan," he said, his voice like ice. "What does he want?" Sophia asked, her chest tightening. "He's calling my bluff," Liam said, standing abruptly. "He's hosting a gala tomorrow night, and he's invited us." Sophia's eyes widened. "Us? Why would he do that?" "To see if I'll show up, to see if I'm afraid." Liam's gaze locked onto hers. "We're going." Sophia felt a jolt of panic. "Liam, this sounds like a trap." "Maybe it is," he said, his voice calm but resolute. But if we don't go, he wins. Sophia wanted to argue, but the determination in his eyes stopped her. This was more than just a power play. It was a battle for control, for survival. And like it or not, she was part of it now. As she left his penthouse that night, her mind raced with what the next day would bring. The gala loomed like a storm on the horizon, full of unknowns and potential dangers. But as much as she feared it, she couldn't deny the pull of the fight. For better or worse, she was in this with Liam, and there was no turning back. The night of the gala arrived with a chill in the air, the city shimmering under a veil of lights and shadows. Sophia stood in front of her full-length mirror, her heart pounding as she smoothed the fabric of the dress Liam had sent for her earlier that day. It was a deep crimson gown, elegant and striking, the kind of dress that demanded attention. She felt exposed wearing it, like she was stepping into a role she wasn't quite ready for. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. The message was short, but it sent her pulse racing. "I'm downstairs, ready when you are. Liam." With a deep breath, she grabbed her clutch and headed out the door. The ride down in the elevator felt interminable, her nerves tightening with every floor. By the time she stepped outside and saw Liam waiting by the car, her hands were trembling. He looked every bit the powerful mogul in his black tuxedo, his sharp features softened slightly by the cool glow of the streetlights. "You look stunning," he said, his voice low and sincere. Sophia felt her cheeks flush. "Thanks. You don't look too bad yourself." He smiled faintly, but the tension in his posture betrayed his calm demeanor. He opened the car door for her, and as she slid inside, she couldn't help but notice the way his jaw tightened as he scanned their surroundings. He was on edge, more so than usual, and it only heightened her own anxiety. The car ride to the gala was quiet, the city passing by in a blur of light and motion. Sophia glanced at Liam, who was staring out the window, his expression unreadable. "Liam," she said softly, breaking the silence. "What exactly are we walking into tonight?" He turned to her, his blue eyes sharp and calculating. "A game. One Nathan thinks he's already won." Sophia frowned. "And you're sure this is the right move? Showing up, I mean." "If we don't," Liam said firmly, "he'll see it as a sign of weakness. He'll keep coming after us." United States. The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. She wanted to correct him, to remind him that this wasn't her fight. But deep down, she knew that wasn't true anymore. This had become her battle too, whether she liked it or not. When they arrived at the venue, a grand historic building with towering columns and a red carpet stretching out front, Sophia's breath caught. The paparazzi were out in full force, their cameras flashing like 1,000 tiny explosions. Liam offered her his arm, and as she took it, she felt a strange sense of steadiness. Despite everything, he made her feel like she could face whatever was waiting inside. The moment they stepped onto the red carpet, the whispers began. Sophia could feel the weight of 100 eyes on her, the murmurs of speculation and judgment rippling through the crowd. Liam held her close, his hand firm against her back as they navigated the gauntlet of flashing cameras and pointed stares. Inside, the gala was a spectacle of opulence and power. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the room, and the air buzzed with the chatter of New York's elite. Nathan Steele was easy to spot, standing near the bar with a glass of whiskey in hand, his smirk as sharp as the cut of his suit. His gaze locked onto Liam and Sophia the moment they entered, and for a brief second the room seemed to go silent. "Well, well," Nathan said as they approached, his voice dripping with mockery. "Liam Bennett graces us with his presence, and who is this stunning creature on your arm?" "Sophia Alvarez," Liam said coolly, his tone void of the usual sharpness. "I believe you've heard of her." Nathan's smirk deepened, his eyes flicking to Sophia with a glint of amusement. "Ah, yes, the woman who's been keeping the tabloids busy. I must say, you're even more enchanting in person." Sophia forced a polite smile, her stomach twisting. "Flattery won't get you very far, Mr. Steele." Nathan chuckled, raising his glass in mock salute. "Feisty. I like that." Liam stepped forward, his presence commanding. "Enough games, Nathan. Why don't we skip the pleasantries and get to the point?" Nathan's expression shifted, the playful glint in his eyes replaced by something colder. "The point, Liam, is that you've been trying to play in a league you don't belong in, and now the cracks are starting to show." Liam's jaw tightened, but he didn't rise to the bait. "If you have something to say, say it, or are you afraid to do it without an audience?" The tension between them was palpable, the air around them crackling with unspoken animosity. Sophia glanced around, noticing the way other guests were starting to watch, their curiosity piqued by the confrontation. Nathan's smirk returned, though it lacked its earlier confidence. "Careful, Bennett. You're walking a very fine line." "And you've already crossed it," Liam shot back, his voice low and dangerous. "You've been spreading lies, dragging innocent people into your games. But it ends tonight." Nathan raised an eyebrow, his composure slipping for a brief moment. "And how exactly do you plan to do that?" Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, holding it up for Nathan to see. "I have everything I need to prove what you've done. Every lie, every manipulation, every backdoor deal. It's over." Nathan's face darkened, the smug confidence draining away. For the first time, he looked genuinely unsettled. "You're bluffing." "Try me," Liam said, his voice like steel. "One more move, and everything you've built comes crashing down." The silence that followed was deafening. The room seemed to hold its breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone. Nathan stared at Liam, his jaw working as he fought to maintain his composure. Finally, he let out a low, bitter laugh. "Well played, Bennett," he said, his voice tight. "But this isn't over." With that, he turned and walked away, his shoulders stiff and his steps brisk. Liam watched him go, his expression unchanging, but Sophia could feel the tension in his posture begin to ease. "You really had something on him?" she asked quietly, still reeling from the confrontation. Liam slipped his phone back into his pocket, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Let's just say I knew what buttons to push." Sophia shook her head, a mix of disbelief and admiration washing over her. "You're impossible." "And you're amazing," he said, his tone softening as he looked at her. "I couldn't have done this without you." For a moment the noise and chaos of the gala faded, and all Sophia could see was Liam, the man who had dragged her into his world of power and deception, but who had also shown her a strength she hadn't known she possessed. She wasn't sure what the future held, but as they walked out of the gala together, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The sharp click of Liam's footsteps echoed through the vast marble lobby of Bennett Tower as he made his way toward his office, his phone pressed tightly to his ear. His voice was calm but clipped, each word carefully measured as he spoke to his head of security. "I want every piece of dirt on Steele analyzed, verified, and ready to drop if he so much as breathes in my direction again. Understand?" "Yes, sir," came the voice on the other end. "We're on it." Liam hung up and entered his office, the city skyline stretching out behind his desk like a glittering battlefield. He set his phone on the desk and let out a slow breath, his mind racing. The gala had been a victory, but it was far from the end. Nathan Steele was a cornered animal now, and cornered animals were the most dangerous. He glanced at the file sitting on his desk, a detailed dossier on Nathan's business dealings. The information was damning, But Liam hadn't pulled the trigger yet. Not because he doubted the strategy, but because of the collateral damage it might cause. He had no illusions about Nathan playing fair, but even Liam had limits. For now, the file would remain untouched. The sound of soft knocking pulled him from his thoughts. He looked up to see Sophia standing in the doorway, her expression uncertain. She had changed out of the striking crimson gown from the gala into something simpler, a fitted blazer and dark jeans. But she still carried the same quiet elegance that had drawn every eye in the room the night before. "Am I interrupting?" she asked, her voice soft. "Not at all," Liam said, motioning for her to come in. "I'm surprised you're here. You should be resting after last night." Sophia stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "I couldn't sleep," she admitted, her gaze drifting to the file on his desk. "And something tells me you couldn't either." Liam followed her gaze, his lips twitching into a faint smile. "I don't sleep much these days." Sophia approached the desk, her hands resting on the back of one of the chairs. "So what happens now? Steele isn't just going to slink away quietly, is he?" "No," Liam said, his tone matter of fact. "He'll try to retaliate, probably through back channels, using people who can't be traced back to him." Sophia frowned. "And you're ready for that?" "I have to be," Liam said simply, "but I'm more concerned about you." She blinked, caught off guard. "Me?" "Yes," he said, leaning forward slightly. "You've been dragged into this because of me. I can't let you become a target." Sophia's chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to tell him she didn't need his protection. But deep down, she knew he was right. She wasn't equipped to deal with the kind of power plays that men like Nathan Steele thrived on. "What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice quieter now. Liam hesitated, his gaze softening. "I'm going to end this, once and for all." Sophia studied him, searching his face for any sign of hesitation. But Liam Bennett was nothing if not resolute. She could see it in the set of his jaw, the steely determination in his eyes. Whatever he was planning, he was prepared to see it through to the end. "I trust you," she said finally, the words surprising even herself. Liam's expression shifted, a flicker of something unspoken passing between them. Gratitude? Relief? Whatever it was gone almost as quickly as it appeared. "Thank you," he said softly. "That means more than you know." The moment lingered, heavy with unspoken words. Then, as if sensing the weight of it, Liam stood and grabbed the file from his desk. "I need to meet with my legal team," he said, his tone returning to its usual clipped professionalism. "But I'll keep you updated." Sophia nodded, stepping back as he moved past her. "Be careful, Liam." He paused, glancing back at her. "You too." As the door closed behind him, Sophia sank into the chair by his desk, her mind racing. She didn't know what Liam's next move would be, but something in her gut told her it would change everything. For better or worse, she was caught in the middle of a storm, and the only thing she could do was hold on. Hours later, as the city descended into the quiet hum of the night, Sophia received a call. She almost didn't answer, exhaustion weighing heavily on her. But when she saw the number, a private line she didn't recognize, curiosity got the better of her. "Hello?" she said cautiously. "Sophia Alvarez?" The voice on the other end was male, smooth and unsettlingly calm. "Yes, who is this?" "Let's just say I'm a concerned party," the man said, "and I have some advice for you. Get out while you still can." Sophia's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" "This game Liam Bennett is playing. It doesn't end well for people like you. Walk away before it's too late." "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice rising. "How do you know Liam?" "Let's just say I know enough," the man said, his tone unchanging. "Consider this a friendly warning. The line went dead before she could respond, leaving her staring at the phone in stunned silence. She immediately called Liam, her hands trembling as she dialed his number. "Sophia?" he answered on the second ring, his voice sharp with concern. "What's wrong?" She quickly recounted the call, her voice shaking as she repeated the man's words. Liam listened in silence, but she could hear the tension in his breathing. "Did you recognize the voice?" he asked when she finished. "No," Sophia said, "but he knew about you, about what's happening." Liam swore under his breath. "I'll handle it. Don't answer any more calls from unknown numbers, and stay where you are. I'm sending someone to keep an eye on you." "Liam, just trust me," he interrupted, his voice firm. "I'll take care of this." Sophia hung up, her nerves frayed. She paced her apartment, her mind spinning with possibilities. Who was the man who had called her, and how much danger was she really in? When a knock sounded at her door an hour later, she jumped, her heart racing. She peered through the peephole to see one of Liam's security guards standing outside, his expression serious. "Miss Alvarez," he said when she opened the door, "Mr. Bennett sent me. I'll be staying outside your door tonight." Sophia nodded, her chest tight with anxiety. "Thank you." As the door closed behind her, she sank onto the couch, her head in her hands. The storm wasn't just looming anymore, it had arrived, and she was at the center of it. But no matter how much fear gnawed at her, one thing remained certain. She wasn't running. Not now, not ever. The next morning, the city was veiled in a grey mist, its usual frenetic energy muted under the weight of an impending storm. Sophia sat by her apartment window, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of coffee. She hadn't slept, her mind replaying the anonymous call and Liam's sharp instructions to stay inside. The distant hum of traffic below was the only sound, but it did little to calm her frayed nerves. Her phone buzzed on the table beside her, the name on the screen sending a jolt through her chest. "Liam." She picked up, her voice unsteady. "Hello? Are you all right?" His voice was calm, but carried an edge of urgency. "I'm fine," she said, "just trying to process everything." There was a pause before Liam spoke again, his tone softening. "Sophia, I need you to come to the office. Something's happened." Her stomach twisted. "What is it?" "It's better if I explain in person," he said. "I'll send a car." Sophia hesitated, her heart pounding. She didn't want to step outside, not after last night, but something in Liam's voice told her she didn't have a choice. "All right," she said finally. "I'll be ready." The car arrived quickly, its black exterior gleaming like a shadow against the overcast sky. Sophia climbed in, the tension in her chest tightening as the city blurred past the windows. By the time she reached Bennett Tower, her palms were damp and her pulse thrummed in her ears. The elevator ride to Liam's penthouse felt like an eternity, the quiet hum of the machinery amplifying her nerves. When the doors opened, Liam was waiting. He was dressed in his usual sharp suit, but his expression was darker than she had ever seen. He gestured for her to follow him into the office, his movements quick and purposeful. "What's going on?" Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam didn't answer immediately. He walked to his desk, picked up a folder, and handed it to her. "This came in late last night." Sophia opened the folder, her eyes scanning the pages. It was a detailed report, filled with names, dates, and transactions. At first, it didn't make sense, but as she read further, the pieces started to fall into place. This is about Steele?" she asked, her voice shaking. Liam nodded. "It's everything I need to bring him down. Fraud, embezzlement, even ties to organized crime. If this goes public, he's finished." Sophia's breath caught. "So why do you look like someone just punched you in the gut?" Liam leaned against the desk, his hands gripping the edge. "Because there's more." Whoever leaked this to us, someone on Steele's side, left a message. He slid a piece of paper across the desk, his jaw tightening as she picked it up. The words were scrawled in neat, precise handwriting. A warning. You're not as untouchable as you think. Sophia's hands trembled as she set the paper down. They're trying to scare you. They're trying to scare us, Liam corrected, his voice firm. This isn't just about me anymore. They know you're involved, and they're using that against me. Sophia felt a cold wave of fear wash over her. What do we do? Liam pushed off the desk, his expression hardening. We fight back. I'm going to use this information to corner Steele, force him to back off, but I need you to be prepared. Things might get worse before they get better. Worse? Sophia repeated, her voice rising. Liam, this is already way beyond anything I signed up for. I know, he said quietly, stepping closer. And I hate that you've been pulled into this, but I promise you, I won't let anything happen to you. The sincerity in his voice stopped her protests. She wanted to believe him, to trust that he could protect her, but the shadows in his eyes told her he was carrying more weight than he let on. What's the plan? She asked finally. Liam exhaled, his shoulders relaxing slightly. I've set up a meeting with Steele. I'm going to confront him with this and give him one last chance to back down. If he doesn't, we go public. Sophia's chest tightened. And you think he'll just give up? No, Liam admitted. But he'll know I'm not bluffing. The rest of the day passed in a blur of preparation. Liam's team worked tirelessly, compiling the evidence and rehearsing the confrontation. Sophia stayed close, feeling more like a bystander than a participant. But as the hours ticked by, she realized how much was at stake, not just for Liam, but for her too. By the time evening arrived, the tension in the penthouse was palpable. The meeting was set to take place at a private club downtown, a neutral location where both sides could feel equally exposed. As Liam adjusted his cufflinks, his movements precise but tense, Sophia couldn't stay silent any longer. Liam, she said softly, drawing his attention, be careful. He looked at her, his gaze softening for a brief moment. I will. And don't do anything reckless, she added, her voice firm. Liam's lips twitched into a faint smile. You're starting to sound like my conscience. Someone has to, she shot back, trying to inject a bit of levity into the moment. But the worry in her eyes betrayed her. Liam stepped closer, his expression serious. I mean it, Sophia. Stay here. No matter what happens, don't leave this building. She nodded reluctantly, her stomach knotting with unease. Just come back in one piece. I will, he promised. And when this is over, we'll figure out what comes next. Sophia watched as he left, the door closing behind him with a heavy finality. The hours that followed were agonizing. She paced the penthouse, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Every sound made her jump, every shadow felt like a threat. When her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, her heart nearly stopped. Tick-tock, Sophia. Time's running out. Her blood turned to ice. She immediately called Liam, but the call went straight to voicemail. Panic clawed at her chest as she dialed his head of security. Miss Alvarez, the man said, his voice calm. What's wrong? Someone just sent me a message, she said, her voice trembling. They know I'm here. There was a pause on the other end. We're monitoring the building. You're safe, but I'll send someone to check in. Sophia hung up, but the reassurance did little to calm her nerves. She sat on the couch, her hands gripping her phone like a lifeline. Minutes felt like hours, and the silence in the penthouse was deafening. When the door finally opened, she shot to her feet, her heart pounding. Liam walked in, his expression weary but victorious. He held up the folder, a faint smile tugging at his lips. It's done, he said, Sophia stared at him, relief and disbelief washing over her. What happened? He backed down, Liam said, his voice steady. I made it clear that if he so much as looks in our direction again, I'll destroy him. Sophia felt a wave of emotion rise in her chest. And he believed you? He didn't have a choice, Liam said. Not with what we have on him. Sophia took a step closer, her voice trembling. Are we really safe? Liam met her gaze, his expression softening. We will be. I promise. For the first time in days, Sophia felt a glimmer of hope. The storm wasn't over, but she finally believed they might survive it. Together. The city glowed under the soft orange haze of dawn. The skyline stretched like a crown over Manhattan's waking streets. Liam stood on the balcony of his penthouse, his hand resting lightly on the cool metal railing as he stared out at the world below. The air was still, the calm after a storm that had raged for weeks. But the battle with Nathan Steele had finally ended, and for the first time in days, his mind was quiet. Behind him, the sound of soft footsteps echoed in the spacious living room. He turned to see Sophia standing in the doorway, wrapped in one of his oversized sweaters, her hair loosely tied back. The sight of her in the pale morning light sent a flicker of warmth through his chest, a feeling he hadn't let himself indulge in until now. Couldn't sleep, she asked, her voice gentle as she approached. Liam shook his head, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Not much of a sleeper these days. Sophia stopped beside him, leaning against the railing as she gazed out at the city. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the silence between them comfortable, but charged with unspoken words. Finally, she broke the stillness. It's really over, isn't it? She asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. It is, Liam said, his tone resolute. Steele won't come after us again. He knows better now. Sophia nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. I should feel relieved, but part of me is still waiting for the other shoe to drop. It won't, Liam assured her. Not this time. Sophia turned to look at him, her expression softening. And you? Are you okay? He hesitated, the question catching him off guard. I'm fine, he said finally. Or at least I will be. That's not exactly convincing, she said with a small smile, her eyes searching his face. You've been carrying the weight of this for so long, Liam. You don't have to do it alone anymore. Her words hit him harder than he expected, stirring something deep within him. He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time he let himself consider what life might look like if he stopped fighting alone. Thank you, he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion, for everything, for standing by me when you didn't have to. Sophia's smile widened, her cheeks flushing slightly. I guess I'm just stubborn like that. Liam chuckled, the sound warm and unguarded. You're a lot more than that. The moment lingered, the air between them charged with something electric. But before either of them could speak, Liam's phone buzzed on the nearby table. He sighed, breaking the spell, and stepped inside to answer it. Sophia watched him go, her chest tightening with emotion she couldn't quite name. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind, pulling her into a world she never imagined being a part of. And yet, despite everything, she couldn't bring herself to regret any of it. When Liam returned, his expression was more relaxed, though his eyes still carried a flicker of tension. That was my lawyer, he said, leaning against the doorframe. Steele's officially signed the settlement agreement. It's over. Sophia let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. That's good news, right? It is, Liam said, his tone soft. But it also means I need to start thinking about what comes next. Sophia frowned, her heart sinking slightly. What do you mean? Liam stepped closer, his gaze steady, but filled with something unspoken. For a long time, all I've focused on is building this company, protecting what my father left behind. But now, I don't know. Maybe it's time to start living for something more." Sophia felt her pulse quicken, her chest tightening with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "And what does that look like for you?" Liam hesitated, his eyes locking onto hers. "I'm not sure yet, but I know it doesn't look like this. Fighting battles, chasing ghosts. I want something real." Sophia's breath caught, her mind racing. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she reached out, her hand brushing against his. Liam didn't pull away. Instead, he took her hand in his grip firm but gentle. "Sophia," he said, his voice low but steady. "I don't know where this is going, but I know I don't want to figure it out without you." Her chest tightened, tears stinging her eyes as she looked at him. For so long, she had told herself that this was temporary, that she was just a piece in Liam's game. But standing here now, with his hand in hers and his words filling the space between them, she realized how much more this had become. "I don't want to do this without you either," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's lips curved into a faint smile, the kind that made her chest ache in the best way. "Then let's figure it out. Together." For the first time in weeks, Sophia felt the weight of fear and uncertainty lift from her shoulders. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she felt ready to face it. With Liam by her side, she believed they could weather anything. The city stretched out before them, its lights glowing like tiny beacons of hope. And as the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, Sophia felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. This wasn't the ending she had expected. It wasn't an ending at all. It was the beginning of something new, something real. And for the first time, she was ready to embrace it. Together.